Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2011 psychological thriller drama that is Take Shelter. Now, this is a film that when it came out, it didn't really do that much when it comes to the box office, but it didn't really get a wide enough release for that. But it did get some good reviews and some significant accolades from critics. But it is also a film that has kind of a divisive reaction from the general audience. And after watching the film, I can definitely see why. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on Take Shelter, I want to give a special shout out to Dark Metal Spider for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Take Shelter is directed by Jeff Nichols, who also wrote the film. And if there is one consistently great element of this movie, other than some of the performances by the cast, it's definitely the direction by Nichols. He did a incredible job with this movie. There are so many different shots in this that are simply a work of art. It's a gorgeous looking film, and it's a movie that deals with some pretty heavy subject matter about mental illness and a lot of the stuff that stems from that. And it has this very permeating sense of dread throughout it. And there's even like multiple sequences that are nightmare scenes. And the way that they're shot is effectively nightmarish and creepy. And it's a film that through some really effective framing and some good usage of wide shots and tight shots and other camera angles, it really creates a very eye-catching film, despite the fact that there's a lot of scenes in the movie where not a lot is happening. It's just a lot of typical drama that you might see in a soap opera or some other drama film. But unlike some of the other drama films, there's still a certain sense of style and flair to the direction. It doesn't really seem like it's overly static, it's overly stale, or it's not really full of a good amount of energy. I still think that the direction is surprisingly dynamic considering the subject matter, and I feel it's easily some of his best work as a director. Now, the screenplay by Jeff Nichols, I don't think is as good, and honestly, I feel the script is why, at the end of the day, I wasn't a fan of this film, and specifically the ending. And that's one of the most divisive things about this overall screenplay. And it's something that either works for you or it doesn't at all. Like, there isn't really an in between. But what makes the script ultimately disappointing is that it does a really good job bringing you in and pulling you into the story and providing a good amount of depth to the characters and really making them fleshed out in a way where they feel like they're genuine flesh and blood characters. You feel like you're watching a story about real people dealing with real issues. Uh, so when you have Curtis and his family, and they are struggling with Curtis's oncoming uh, mental illness, and Curtis is also battling with that as well in his own way. It makes for some compelling storytelling, uh, and it also makes for some very frustrating storytelling because there's a lot of stuff in this that is very frustrating to watch because so much about this film when it comes to how a lot of the plot plays out is Curtis just refusing to get help, refusing to be vulnerable, refusing to realize that he's losing his mind just like his mother did, and that he needs to do more than just go to counseling every now and then and distance himself from the reality. And I like the metaphor or the allegory of his impending mental illness being tied in with this storm, which is something that he keeps dreaming about. And he even starts hearing thunder and seeing lightning and things like that. Uh, and it gets to the point where things escalate into absolute crazy territory because he starts building out this storm shelter in his backyard and gets a loan and takes equipment from his job to do it. And he's just going to extreme degrees and lengths to make this shelter into the best possible, safest bomb shelter, and buying gas masks in case there's a gas a bomb attack and all this other stuff. Just going straight up doomsday prepper. That's really what he's doing. Just straight up doomsday prepper mode. Going way above and beyond your usual storm shelter because he keeps having these apocalyptic visions and nightmares about his family being hurt or affected by some kind of oncoming storm. And he just completely deteriorates to the point where he becomes so wrapped up in this storm shelter that he starts ignoring his family. He starts not coming to work. He starts completely separating himself from reality to the point where he thinks it's okay to do things like take equipment from his job site and use it in his backyard without the permission of his boss. And that ultimately comes back to bite him in the ass later because he winds up getting fired from his job because of that. And also because of the fallout between him and his uh, friend and or former friend and colleague, a guy who he worked with, who helped him build out this storm shelter. Uh, I think the guy's name is yeah, Dewart. So yeah, Dewart is this guy who supposedly is his best friend, but because Curtis is losing his mind and he's slipping mentally, he starts getting very paranoid and doesn't want to be around his friend because he had another dream about his friend and his friend attacked him. So he doesn't want to be around him. He doesn't want to be around his wife after he has a dream featuring her. And ultimately the shit hits the fan where he has this mental breakdown at this I don't know what I would call it, like kind of like a barbecue, like an indoor barbecue, like a function. And he gets into a fight with Dewart and he has a mental breakdown and just snaps and is just ranting and raving about this storm that's going to come and how nobody is prepared for it. And there is a storm that eventually does hit. It was like not a heavy storm, but like close to that. Like it wasn't like a hurricane or anything or a tornado, but he is completely paranoid and being racked by mental illness at this point. And so he can't think straight or think clearly. And so he winds up taking his family into the storm shelter and to spend the night there. And then the next day, his wife, Samantha, she's like, "I'm done with this. Like, we need to move on from this, Curtis. You've already cost us so much. You've cost us our income because you decided to do all this craziness with this shelter, and it led to you losing your job. It led to us losing our insurance to be able to pay for the surgery for our daughter to fix her hearing, and you just can't let it go. You're not willing to open the door and take the proper steps and go out into the light and go forward and get treated and do what you need to do to better yourself and to heal this family. And I think Nichols' writing here is really poignant and really powerful when Samantha is telling her husband Curtis to open the door, saying, "I can't open it myself," because he's terrified of opening the door, and he won't do it. And she encourages him and gets him to build up the strength to open the door, and he opens the door and everything's fine. There's like some branches that are on the ground, but nobody's house is torn up. The storm really wasn't anything that serious. And after that, he takes the steps to uh, heal himself mentally and heal the damage that was done to his family by agreeing to go to therapy, by agreeing to go to a mental health facility, and the therapist suggests that he should go on a vacation with his family before he winds up getting put into the facility for long-term treatment. And then the movie decides to have some completely out of left field, artsy fartsy, pretentious ending where this apocalyptic storm that he was having nightmares about throughout the movie, throughout the story, it's real and it's actually coming. And now his wife and his kids can see it. And I know some people have interpreted it as it's not real. What you're seeing is the moment when his wife and his daughter are able to see the oncoming storm just like he is. And that's when they are fully connected in terms of their path forward to deal with Curtis's mental illness. I think that's honestly a lot of wishful thinking. There are a lot of things about this ending, especially some camera angles and some other elements that really do make it seem like it's one thing, and he was right. There is an apocalyptic storm, and it's coming, and now they won't have shelter because they decided to listen to the therapist and decided to treat this as a mental illness. And to me, as somebody who has dealt with mental illness and have had it impact their life directly with somebody they love, to have a film like this that does such a great job realistically portraying what it's like for a person to struggle with the incoming realization that they are losing their mind and the impact that that has on their family and everyone else around them, to just have this ending where it just confirms whatever delusions they had in their mind, to me is kind of a dangerous notion, and it's disappointing. because I feel this is a much better movie if it isn't anything involving the storm is real. I know a lot of people disagree. They think that that's what makes it so good. What if the crazy guy who you think is nuts was actually right the entire time? That's something that works for like an anthology or a short. It doesn't work in this context because this movie is like almost 2 hours. It's very slow paced. It's very much of a slow burn drama thriller, if you even want to call it that. And 99% of it is this allegory or this analogy about mental illness and a bit of masculinity as well, because of the stubbornness that Curtis has in terms of not willing to show weakness and not willing to get help until he starts hearing thunder when there's no storm at all, and starts having all these other issues with audio hallucinations and other stuff like that. And apparently, I guess Olympus, he noticed I was getting a little heated here, and decided he wanted to say hi. Well, hi, Olympus. Hi, boy. Hi. It's okay. Yeah, the movie stresses me out, but it's all right. But yeah, I mean, it's a stressful watch, especially as somebody who has dealt with this in their own life. And then to have this ending where it's like, oops, well, all the effort that he put into bettering himself and getting treatment, it doesn't mean anything now because the storm is real and he's gonna get wiped out along with his wife and kid. Oh, and those things that you thought were delusions, they were real the entire time. Like, what was Jeff Nichols, a massive fan of M. Night Shyamalan? Is that what this is? Because this is the kind of twist you would see in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. That's really what it is. I know that there's a conversation, it's up to interpretation. To me, that's an excuse for not knowing and not being willing to fully commit to an ending. And for a film like this that is all about some very real issues uh, that a lot of people face, and a lot of families face, to trivialize it in such a manner and to just make it into some kind of twist and up to interpretation thing, I think is kind of insulting, to be perfectly honest. I know some people think, oh, well, that makes it less cliched. Uh, Maybe, but we're talking about real issues here. We're talking about people who are mentally ill, and there's already too much of a stigma associated with the mentally ill. And you have a film like this that has a pretty, at least for the most part, for the majority of the film, a clear message about how it's okay to let your guard down. It's okay to put a lot of these things that are holding you back aside, open the door and go in and get help. But only for it to be undone by the end because, oh, the storm was real the entire time. I guess if I could interpret it the way that some people do, where it's the storm isn't real, but they're just seeing the storm, and the storm is a metaphor again. Okay, maybe, but I really cannot get behind that because there's nothing in the script that established that his wife or his kid were having anything involving shared dreams or shared visions or anything of that sort. So I think maybe you could have done something where he sees the storm, even if it's real or not, he just realizes that he's done the right thing. He looks back at his family, smiles, and he's ready to face the storm head on now. And he's not going to shelter himself away from it, because that's what a lot of this is. It's him taking shelter from his own mental illness. That's what the majority of this story and this script is, and the fallout that comes from that. Instead, they do this whole, "Oh, he's the real prophet, and he actually saw it coming, and it was a real storm," and I'm just like, "That's just ridiculous." I don't think it's great, I think it's ridiculous, I really do. Especially for a film that, for the most part, is very straightforward and very, serious when it comes to the way it portrays, oncoming, paranoid or, just oncoming schizophrenia. Despite my issues with the script, like I said, it does have some really powerful moments. It does have some good writing. The ending just doesn't work for me. And it really hurts the film and it hurts the story. It does get me a little discombobulated. It's frustrating because I think you have a film that I think a lot of people could watch and get a lot out of in terms of how to deal with mental illness, whether you're the one that's dealing with it or whether you're caught in the crossfire, so to speak. And to just do this whole, oh, up to interpretation, open ended, pretentious ending, it just really honestly upsets me because I think it just undermines the message of the movie. And I think a lot of people take the wrong thing away from the movie now. Now the main message that people take away from it is, was it a storm? Was the storm real or not? And not about Curtis deciding to take the steps and opening the door and facing the impending storm of his mental illness head on and taking the next steps in order to be able to weather it along with his family. Take Shelter, it also features, in my opinion, some really good performances by the cast. That's another reason why this is such a letdown to me, is because it feels like it's wasting some really good work by these cast members, especially Michael Shannon. He is spectacular in this as Curtis. He is really good. It's a great performance by him. And honestly, one of his best acting roles to date. He is so compelling in this, despite his character being so aggravating and frustrating to watch when it comes to his decisions and his stubbornness and his unwillingness to get treatment and to get help for his mental illness and him doing all these stupid rash things. But it's a really good performance, especially the moment when he breaks down and has that mental breakdown at the indoor barbecue. And he's literally frothing at the mouth in that scene. He was downright terrifying in that sequence. And he was equally as good when he's scared and terrified and doesn't want to open the door because he thinks that the storm is still outside. It's a really good performance by Michael Shannon. Jessica Chastain was also great as Samantha's wife. Some really good work by her. Shea Whigham as Dewart. I thought I liked his performance as well. I felt he had some good chemistry with Shannon. You bought that the two were friends, and you bought that he was understandably pissed off and really considered Curtis an enemy by the end of the movie, considering the effect that Curtis's actions had on his life, because it screwed him over too in the end. And you also have Katy Mixon as Nat, uh, who she's been in a lot of stuff. I would say the most recognizable role that I've seen her in is in Eastbound and Down. You have Ray McKinnon who plays Kyle. You got Lisa Gay Hamilton who plays a character named Kendra. You have Kathy Baker who has a small role as Sarah. And you also have an actress who is actually deaf, who plays the deaf daughter, Hannah. Tova Stewart, who I think she did some really tremendous work as well for a young actress. So the cast is great. The cinematography is gorgeous. I mean, there's some shots in this that are an absolute work of art. You could take a photo of them, put them in a frame, put them on your wall, and it would look amazing. There's one shot in particular where I don't know if it was an illusion or not, but whatever it was a beautiful sequence where Curtis is on the side of the road after he had a panic attack or was about to have another panic attack, and he goes outside and he looks into the sky, and there's all these lightning strikes that are going on. It's a gorgeous sequence, and I think the cinematographer just really seemed to definitely have the same wavelength when it comes to what Jeff wanted to do visually. The editing, I also feel for the most part is pretty excellent by Park Gregg, especially when it comes to the way that the film cuts and splices in the nightmare sequences. The music by David Wingo wasn't like magnificent or fantastic, but it wasn't woeful either. Like it was fine. It worked for the kind of film that this was. It was very understated and small, but that's in a lot of ways very much the kind of story and the kind of film that Take Shelter is. So it's also a film that, yeah, it is a bit long and slow. It's like 121 minutes, and there's a lot of stuff where there's not a lot happening other than Curtis just refusing to get help for his mental illness and just spiraling farther and farther. And I could see why that could get old for some people, but it was so well acted and so realistic and so raw when it comes to the emotion and just the way everything was portrayed that I found it to be pretty compelling until the ending, where I felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath me. And I just did not like that. Like this is a prime example of a movie where the ending just killed the film for me. I don't have any desire to watch this ever again. Uh, and not just because of the ending, but also because of just how close to home it hit. Because of what I've dealt with my stepfather, and I just it's the kind of thing that I just don't really like to experience or let's just say reminisce about or be reminded of. Um, but I'm glad I saw it at least once for the performances and for the cinematography and the direction and for the elements and aspects of the film that were truly tremendous. But it's one of those films though where because of its heavy subject matter, because of the controversial ending, I don't even know if I can really recommend it. If you really like the trailer, it's something you really find to be worth a watch to you because you're intrigued by it, give it a watch. Otherwise, I would probably say give this one a hard pass. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Take Shelter, and until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.